required if you want to purchase a home in Canada. It depends. 10% is a good amount to have. So when you want to purchase a house, you're required to make a large cash investment up front. So definitely, if you're thinking about buying a home, most people start to save up for the down payment, right? You start to get a little nest egg and you put your money in, and when you have enough for the down payment of the house that you think, or the price range you're looking at, that's kind of when you'll go to the bank and say, hey, I got some money saved up, I'm looking for a house. And it can be any amount, right? In the questions we'll see in the assignments, it'll say you've saved up 10% of the house cost. So we'll have to do a bit of calculation. Sometimes it'll actually give you the dollar amount, which is nice, right? So I think we've covered that. The mortgage payment, this is like your regular installment on the mortgage. It's like a rent. It's not a rent payment, but I'm just going to say it acts like a rent payment in the way that you pay it monthly, right? It's paid monthly. A mortgage payment is a blended payment. And we'll learn more about that in the next day or two. Now that's blended means it's kind of two things put together, right? Blended. So a portion of the payment goes towards paying the interest charges to the bank, and a portion of the payment goes towards paying your outstanding loan. I'll dive deeper into that in the days that follow. But just remember that if you have a mortgage payment of $500, part of that $500 just goes to the bank for their service. That's what's called the interest. And then part of it, only part of it is actually going to pay off your loan. Okay? Payments are commonly monthly or bi-weekly. That's what I was saying before. If you pay bi-weekly, you're going to usually pay 2 times a month. But sometimes on those long months, you might end up having 3 payments a month, right? But it can be anything the bank agrees to. This is important. This is worth highlighting, I think, just because this is it's a little confusing, but it's designed to simplify things in the classroom. In this course, all mortgage payments will be monthly, okay? That's not how it is in the real world, but just to make things a little more straightforward, we're just going to pretend that it's always going to be monthly for us, okay? Everyone has a yellow booklet, right? Okay. All right, interest, this is what the bank, this is what you end up paying to the bank for the privilege of borrowing money. It says privilege because not everyone gets granted a mortgage, right? When they go in, you have to qualify for a mortgage. There's they want lots and lots of personal data, right? What are some of the personal things that they want to know about a person coming and applying for a mortgage? Dependents. You have dependents. Credit. What's your credit rating, right? And we all have a credit score as well. I shouldn't say all, but if you've never had credit, never applied for a credit card, never taken out a bank loan or anything, you probably don't have a credit score, and believe it or not, you might get denied because they have no history for you. So you might go in and say, hey, I've never had a credit card, I pay cash for everything. In the credit world of credit, they don't know anything about you then. So they do want a little bit of a credit history. Okay, that's okay. Like how well you pay off a debt, do you make your payments on time? So if you're thinking about buying a home and you don't have a credit card, you might just want to take out a credit card and just buy a pair of socks. Pay it off, right? Just to establish, like don't go out and charge $10,000 and not be able to pay it off, but just buy a couple of little things. Put it, if you drive a car, buy some gas with it. Pay it off right away, and then that's establishing your credit score. Okay, the principal. Okay, there's 2 English words for principal. One is the principal of the school, right? But in financial terms, the principal means it's the amount of the mortgage still owed to the bank, also called the outstanding amount. And I think we saw that term when we were studying credit cards, right? It's the amount you still owe, right? One more. It's the amount you still owe. So at the beginning of your mortgage, your principal is going to be the amount of the mortgage itself, right? I guess the value of the home, subtract any down payment. Whatever you end up having to borrow, that's the principal. Equity, that's another financial word. Equity is the amount of the property you have paid for. Okay? So it's the total of any down payment and any principal paid. So equity equals property minus, another word to think of equity. It's the value of your property, whatever your home is worth at the time, take away what you owe on it, right? The outstanding balance. All right, just for your own purpose, we don't dive deep into these topics because we already have enough to do, but there are several types of mortgages available. There are things like open, closed, fixed, variable rates, different timelines, meaning different amortization periods. When negotiating a mortgage, you need to be aware of what each bank offers, bank or credit union. Remember that interest rates and housing prices change frequently. Your financial decision depends on your financial circumstances at the time you sign your mortgage and the economic climate of the day, right? And that all comes into play here. If you are thinking of getting a house one day and you are going to be shopping for a mortgage, because that's what you do, you can shop around. You check out different banks and credit unions give different rates. You'll also find out that if you're a long-term customer of a bank, perhaps you've been at a bank since you've been a child, you will probably get a better rate than me if I just walk in off the street and they don't know me at all, right? You can also negotiate with, kind of like you do with cell phone companies, right? You try and play one against the other. You can do a little bit of that with the banks too, saying, hey, I was at so-and-so credit union last Saturday, they were offering me this much, and you can negotiate. But one of the best ways to get a good rate is to be like a long-term customer of the bank or credit union, and then if you have a history with them, chances are they'll want to do more business with you just to keep you, right? But definitely it'll be a couple of appointments with the mortgage lender, whoever's in charge of mortgages at the bank, and you'll have to have long talks, give them lots of info, and especially what you're looking for. Okay, so let's actually get into the math of a mortgage payment. So, example 1. Ken purchases a house for $205,900, annual interest rate of 5%, amortized over, that means just the length of the mortgage is 20 years. He plans to make a $20,000 down payment. How much, calculate the amount borrowed for the mortgage. How much will he need to borrow? Any takers?
So I did 205,900, take away 20,000.
Perfect, okay.
And that gave me 185,900.
Yeah, so it's gonna be the price of the home, take away the down payment, and whatever that equals. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Thank you. My eyes are going on me. So that's going to change my answer. Thank you.
So the price of home minus the what? Down payment?
Minus the down payment, yeah. So I'm just going to, this is another one of my shorthands. DP is down payment. So this is the price of the home, right? Minus the down payment. And this is going to be the amount of the mortgage. In other words, the amount of the loan, right? A mortgage is just another name for a house loan. It's just a fancy word for loan because it's just for houses. So a house loan is called a mortgage. So the house is worth $205,900. In Canada, you cannot, you can't borrow the full amount of the house. You have to have something saved up. And these people saved up $20,000. So they only need to borrow $185,900, all right? We good with that? Yeah. Okay, calculate the monthly mortgage payment. If it costs $657 per month for each $1,000 borrowed. So this is what was referred to at 2 pages back. This was that amortization rate down here. They said it's a number that the bank gives you that tells you what the monthly payment will be for each $1,000. So not that you have to be able to define this word, but I just want you to know that this is what we call the amortization rate. Now, this will always be given to you because it comes from bank financial charts, and we're not expecting you guys to be financial officers. You're just using the data that is given, and this is just based on current interest rates. That's why it fluctuates. We're just kind of using a standardized chart. If you took this course before, you used to be given big tables of numbers, and you would find your number. I'll show you what one of those looks like later on, but right now we're just giving you the numbers in the question because that's sort of how the province has swung to giving you amortization data. Okay, so this is my amortization rate. Now, monthly mortgage payment. So again, my mortgage payment, this is my little formula that I'm going to use. And again, because we're going to write this over and over, and I get tired, that's my little mortgage payment shorthand is MP. So my mortgage payment is found by, I take the amount of the mortgage, whatever I have to borrow for that, and I divide by 1,000, and I times it by my amortization rate. I used to call it timesing by the chart number, right? Because it came from a chart, but now they're giving. Now, who was just in the Essential 30 course and studied personal loans? Does that look familiar? It's exactly the same thing, right? Personal loan divided by 1,000 times the chart number. It's exactly what it is. Same thing. Nothing's changing here. Okay, the numbers are going to be bigger though, right? Because we're borrowing usually $250,000 or more to buy a home, bigger than buying or borrowing for a car. Okay, so I need to borrow $185,900 divided by 1,000 times the chart numbers given to me in the question. So how much is this person going to have to pay per month? Oops. Okay, I get 1,221.36 is the monthly payment. Questions, comments? So like I say, if you just finished the 30S, this will be very familiar to you. And you know what? The questions that follow will be similar to you too. Okay. Comments about that? How do you feel about the $1,221 payment every month?
That's a lot.
Seems like a lot. No, that's what you're doing. That's the mortgage payment. That's what they have to pay every month to pay their mortgage off. If they make this payment every month for 20 years, how many payments would that be, by the way? 12 times 20, 240, for 240 times over the next 20 years. At the end of 20 years of payments, that means they'll have paid off their house. Okay? All right. Calculate the total amount he'll pay over the life of the mortgage. That's just what we were talking about, right? So this is the monthly payment. So $1,221.36. And he had to do it for 20 years. So times 12. What's the 12 represent? 12 months in a year, right? In 1 year. Times, and then this is going to change question to question depending on how long the mortgage is. So that's my 20 years. And that's where we got the 240 payments. Some people like doing those together first and just saying how many payments will there be. That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to do this 1221.36 times 12 times 20 years. And if you haven't been in a math classroom for a while or thought of mortgages, this might shock you, but over the life of the mortgage, Ken will have paid back to the bank, taking it nice and slow, $293,000, $126.40. This is the total paid back to the bank over 20 years. But he's doing it in small chunks, right? But because you're doing it for so long, you end up paying back that whole huge amount. But you can see he borrowed $185,000, almost $186,000, right? That's a huge amount. It's gonna take 20 years to pay it off. Now, calculate the cost of financing. That's a fancy term for all the cost of financing, because people in the financial community talk these fancy terms, but the cost of financing is just another way to say find the interest. Calculate the interest paid over the life of the mortgage. All right, well, what did we say interest was? It's the service fee that the bank gets, right? Yeah, subtract what? Yeah. So basically what interest is, it's the difference between what you paid back and what you borrowed. There's always going to be a difference. You're always going to pay back more than you borrowed, right? That's the cost of doing business. That's it's a service industry. So cost of financing, I'm going to take my $293,126, my large number, and subtract what I borrowed. Okay, and I'm just gonna, this is the total paid back. This is the amount borrowed, amount of mortgage. So whatever the difference is, that's the interest. So I get, someone check my answer please, 107,226.40. Yes, do I get a verifier? D, page 8D.
You got 106,073.52?
No.
I got 107. I got 107,226.
0.4? Okay, good.
No, I didn't get 0.4.
Okay. Let me do this one more time. You guys can watch my calculator, okay? 293,126.4 minus 185,900, and I get 107,226.4, right? Yeah. See if I can put the light on. I don't know if that's going to make it better or worse. Remember that you are subtracting the amount you borrowed, not the cost of the house. Don't subtract the cost of the house, because you didn't borrow. You didn't borrow the cost of the house. You're only subtracting what you borrowed initially. Now, yes, that's a lot of interest. However, as we said yesterday, who else are you going to go to borrow $250,000 from, right?
Mob.
I think I'd rather deal with the bank. Right? Or sell your kidneys and yeah.
30,000 bucks. Immediate.
You don't notice it as much. It's very frightening when you see that amount, but it's gradual, right? And you're providing your family and yourself a nice, safe place to live. Okay, you're not worried about the mafia come to your door on Saturday mornings to shake you down. Okay, let's talk about this. We did touch on this a little bit. I said at least 30% of this course is just opinion questions as well, and your perspective, what you can come up with. So example 2 said, that's a big amount of interest. There are 3 main ways that a person can pay less interest overall. I think there are more than 3, but it says 3 main. So we did talk a bit about this yesterday. What are some ways to reduce this amount of interest?
You put more money down.
Put a larger down payment down. Yeah? Put down.
Shopping.
And you can also make your mortgage for a longer
Yeah, a larger down payment. Now, if you do that though, was that you, Ryan? Or who was that? Was that you? Okay. If you extend your mortgage, you're gonna end up paying more interest. Your payments will lower, but more interest. So we wanna know how to pay less interest.
It's usually for people that have lower budgets that
Yeah.
make it for a longer period.
Yeah, how about doing the reverse of what you said?
Putting more money down and having it.
No,
shorter?
shorten your mortgage, yeah, shorten your, amortization period, to use the fancy word. In simpler words, it just means, shorten your, no, pay it off quicker. That's what I mean. Pay the mortgage off quicker. Like a shorter term. If they offer, like this guy, he had a 20-year term. He could go say, well, okay, I'm going to pay it off in 15 years, right? If he pays it off quicker, he'll lessen his interest, but he will increase the monthly payment. If you're going to pay it off quicker, you're going to pay more each month, right? Okay, so we have got larger down payment, shorten the length of time you pay back.
Bank shopping?
Hmm?
Bank shopping?
Look for a cheaper interest rate. Yeah. Shop for a lower interest rate. That's what I was saying. Like, getting to know your bank is really a great idea. Even shaving off like a 10.1 of a mortgage point, or 10%, or even 0.5% can make a difference in thousands of dollars in the end of your mortgage, because you're borrowing such a huge amount for such a long period of time. Even just changing your interest rate, like dropping it by 0.5%, can pay off huge amounts to you in the end. Okay, so those are all great ideas. There's probably, you could also say, I guess we didn't include this one, but this might be harder for people, is just also choosing a cheaper house, right? Not having such an expensive house. But sometimes people get set in a particular neighborhood and they need a particular size for their family. So sometimes there's less wiggle room there, right? Okay, we've got a duplicate example 3. There's only one little difference. So I'm going to get you to try this one on your own. I'm going to give you a bit of pendants, and then I'm going to circle back and I'll go over this one together with you before class is over. But this one is almost identical. There's one little difference. Janice and Elmo find a home to purchase with a price of $225,000. They're going to make a 5% down payment. They will finance the remainder with a mortgage with an interest rate of 4.75% over 25 years. Okay, what's the slight difference in this one?
They don't have a down payment, or
They didn't give you the down payment.
yeah, they didn't give, they just say. that
They made you work for it, right? Yeah. So how much are they going to need to borrow? All right, so let's start this one off. What's my first step here? What would I do first?
You're gonna grab the purchase price, so 225.
Yep, so 225,000 times my 5%, right? Some people are doing just going straight to 0.05, which is awesome. And some people see that 5% and do this. Either way, it's going to give you your 0.05. Okay, so first I have to calculate that. So those are a little harder when they don't hand you the down payment right away. So $11,250 is the down payment. Yeah, and that's what has to be subtracted out. Thanks, Arlene. So I've got my 225. Okay. Perfect. That's what I got too. So what do we call this? 213,750 is what? No, not the amount of interest. We're not.
mortgage, the amount of your house,
Yeah.
right?
Is the amount of your mortgage. That's how much you need to borrow. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna do B, C, and D for me. And while you do that, I'm gonna take attendance. I'll just stop recording while I take